Okay, welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled board meeting of South Tahoe PUD. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Nick, are you on the line?
We have Nick on the line, Nick X line. You may need to hit *6 to unmute.
Just wanted to make sure we had all the board members before we got going on this.
I just had a phone call here too. Let me see if this could have possibly now.
It looks like Nick is supposed to join the call. Nick, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Shelley. Yes.
Not clearly, but we can hear you.
We're just waiting to see if Nick X line's on the line.
I see looks like he's in. But he might be muted.
Nick, you might need to unmute your phone. *6 to unmute.
Well, there he is.
There it is.
Is that Nick?
Can you hear us?
*6. Thank you, Melanie.
Yes.
I was yelling for a few minutes. Thank you.
I'm here. Okay. Do we have any comments from the audience? We don't have an audience here. Any comments from the virtual audience on the non-agenda items? Okay, I don't think we do. Do we have any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar? And I'm not hearing any of those, so how about we have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I'll move we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
We're going to do the screen voting.
We're going to do screen voting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're okay to do that, and then I'll call them out. With Nick as the exception. Okay, so we have a first and a second motion for adoption of the consent calendar. We've got Cephalou, President Vogelsang, Sheehan, Director X-Line.
Yay.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to, that's 4-0, by the way. I'd like to turn it over to our General Manager with a tribute to Director James Jones.
Yes, and before we start that out, I want to say Melanie has kept in touch with Susie Paulson. This is Jim Jones's girlfriend, and she's now on the phone.
Yes, thank you.
And Susie would like to express her appreciation for the district, accepting Jim as family. That the district was extremely important to Jim. He was passionate about his work here and thought of the district as part of his family. So thanks for that sentiment, Susie. We all thought the world of Jim. This was a massive loss to the district, and he was part of our family. So with that, Mr. President, it's my great honor to bring forward Resolution number 3139-2020. A resolution by the Board of Directors of the South Tahoe Public Utility District, whereas James Jones assumed office in 1977 and served a combined total of 39 years on the SDPUD Board of Directors. And whereas during his tenure, Director Jones was a steadfast advocate for safe, clean drinking water and reliable wastewater services, and was focused on building for the future instead of kicking the can down the road. And whereas Director Jones's unwavering commitment to replacing aging infrastructure and increase the reliability of our water and sewer systems will benefit our community for decades to come. And whereas Director Jones was a strong advocate to ensure the integrity of our water and sewer delivery systems and passionately served the district, and his guidance helped build the reliable systems that we have today. And whereas Director Jones spearheaded efforts to secure grant funding to reassess wastewater treatment options which led to upgrading the treatment plant and eventually led to the district's recognition by the US EPA as Wastewater Treatment Plant of the Year in both 1994 and again in 2001. Whereas Director Jones was instrumental in protecting South Lake Tahoe's water quality when gas stations contaminated groundwater with MTBE in the late 1990s. Jim testified for the district, met with Congress, and served on EPA's Blue Ribbon Committee to ensure MTBE polluters paid to clean up the mess. And through his efforts, the district received more than $70 million in lawsuits and settlements, which set a precedent nationwide for oil companies to fund cleanup measures. And whereas Director Jones fought fires with the U.S. Forest Service, inspected wastewater treatment plants for the Environmental Protection Agency and Bureau of Reclamation, and had a unique understanding of the link between forest management, water quality, and fire suppression, and worked on a statewide initiative highlighting the importance of headwater issues on California's water supply. And whereas Director Jones made frequent trips to Sacramento and Washington, D.C., including just this past February, to lobby for infrastructure funding and successfully lobbied for millions in grant funds to build a recycled water system, upgrade the wastewater treatment plant, drill new wells, and increase South Lake Tahoe's ability to fight wildfire. And whereas Director Jones served as the district representative on the El Dorado County Water Agency, the district's water and wastewater operations and executive committees, and served as the district's representative on the Lakeside Park Associates and Admin Code ad hoc committees, and served as the district's liaison for El Dorado County, and worked closely with Aqua and CASA, and that his loss will be felt by industry partners statewide. And whereas Director Jones will be remembered for his lifelong curiosity for science and engineering, connecting people with complex issues, and fighting to do the right thing for our community. And whereas Director Jones was a dedicated public servant and will be dearly missed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South Tahoe Public Utility District does hereby express deep appreciation and tribute to Director Jones for his many years of public service to the people of South Lake Tahoe, California. We, the undersigned, do hereby certify that the above and foregoing resolution, number 3139, 2020, was duly and regularly adopted and passed by the Board of Directors of the SDPUD at a regular meeting held on the 21st day of May, 2020, by the following vote.
Thank you, John. I would like to move that we adopt resolution number 3139-2020 in tribute of Director James Jones.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Director Sepulveda?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for that written out. That was very good.
Thanks, Mommy.
Okay, which brings us to the board seat number 2 appointment. Melanie's going to go through the steps that we're going to take in the next couple of weeks here.
Absolutely. So the district has one board seat to appoint, and in order to do so, I was asked to review the board policy 2020.80. The policy currently states that the notice of vacancy shall appear in a local paper as a box ad for a period of 5 days, which obviously is problematic because our Tribune only prints 1 day a week, and they do have the online version, but a lot of times these legal things, they want to print it in a public circulated, printed advertisement. So although it'll be online, we took a look at this policy and decided, or staff's recommending that the board approve a modification to the policy to state that the notice of vacancy shall appear in the local paper as a box ad, period. And that way there's no specification on the time limit. So that's the first thing. Second, in order to appoint a member to fill the seat, a notice of vacancy is required to be authorized by the board, which you're being asked to do today. You have a copy of the notice of vacancy in your board packet, and the timeline is laid out as follows. The notice of vacancy, if approved today, will be published in the Tribune and online starting tomorrow. It will run online for the next week. Applications for the board seat must be received by the district no later than Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. A special board meeting will be held Thursday, June 11th, 2020 at 9 a.m. to interview all applicable candidates. Keep in mind they have to be voting members within the district.
What day is that?
That is Thursday. I'm sorry, did I say Tuesday?
No, I just didn't hear
Thursday,
it. What day?
Thursday, June 11th.
Okay.
Thursday, June 11th. And so that'll start at 9 a.m. All applicants who are applicable will be interviewed, and then the board is welcome to appoint a member at that point. The appointed board member will take their oath of office at the regular scheduled board meeting on June 18th. So that is the second meeting in June. The term for the seat number 2 will be through December 4th, 2020. Staff recommends that the board authorize changes to the board policy section 2.20.80, authorize posting notice of vacancy for the South Tahoe Public Utility District board seat number 2, and approve the schedule for filling the vacancy. So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 4-0. I was going to ask if anybody wanted to discuss that at
I know,
all.
I kind of went sorry.
But I took the hint from Melanie. Just went right there.
So when the election takes place in December, this person will have an opportunity to run for that seat, then it will be a 4-year term,
Okay.
whoever, yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is
It just changes the order.
Yeah, it changed the 2- and 3-year cycle things. Now it's Kelly and I are in the 3-pack
So
instead of
then
the 2.
your seat and Nick's seat will be up in 2022, and it'll be just the 2 of you, right?
As far as we know.
As far as, yes.
Okay, very good. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Evo, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Why don't we do this real quick, Evo? It says here number 1 is to hold a public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing at this point, and then I'm going to let you give your presentation, and we can see if there's any public comment, and we'll move on. We'll close the public meeting if there isn't any. So public hearing's open. Evo, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Okay. So I hope you're seeing my first slide. Does everybody see that?
Yes,
See the opening slide for board number 60? Okay. Yeah. Well, good afternoon. And board agenda item 6C involves holding a hearing to receive public comment on whether or not to adopt resolution 3140-20. This is a resolution to draft an update to the 2014 groundwater management plan for the South Tahoe Public Utility District Groundwater Sustainability Agency. The notice for the public hearing was published in the Tahoe Daily Tribune on Friday, May 8th, and on the next Friday, May 15th. And the adoption of the resolution will allow the district to draft an update to the 2014 groundwater management plan, as well as stay in compliance with regulatory requirements for groundwater sustainability plans with approved alternatives under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So I do have a couple slides to briefly explain the purpose of this resolution that I'd like to go through with you right now. So, you guys see the slide advancing at all?
No, but if it helps, Evo, we all have hard copies printed out on this. So we can
Okay.
go with the computer or without the computer, whatever you want to do.
Well, let's just walk through the handout, use the handout. So looking at the second slide, the DWR approved alternative. So in 2016, in December 2016, with support from the County Water Agency, the district submitted the 2014 Groundwater Management Plan, along with additional supporting plans, reports, and other documents relating to this groundwater management plan to the California Department of Water Resources for evaluation as an alternative to a groundwater sustainability plan for our groundwater basin. And then in July of 2019, DWR completed its review and assessment of those documents and approved the submitted alternative for our groundwater basin as an approved alternative. So the next slide, the update to the 2014 GMP. The 2014 Groundwater Management Plan was always intended to be a living document. It's intended to be updated periodically as there's progress made in achieving our and managing our groundwater resources, as well as to reflect changes in any regulatory amendments to the California Water Code with regard to groundwater management. And also under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, approved alternatives, for which we have one, are required to be updated on a regular 5-year schedule. The 5-year update to the Groundwater Management Plan will allow the district to review and update the 2014 Groundwater Management Plan in light of new regulatory requirements under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. It will also allow us to review and update the implementation plan in light of actions that have been completed since adoption of the 2014 plan in December of 2014. And will also allow us to incorporate new information that's been developed since adoption of the 2014 Groundwater Management Plan to address recommended actions which have been identified by the Department of Water Resources during the review and evaluation of that plan. One of the requirements as far as on the review and the update is that the updated plan needs to be resubmitted to the Department of Water Resources by January 1st of 2022. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a list of the recommended actions from the Department of Water Resources based on their review and evaluation of our 2014 plan. I've gone through this with the board at the April 16th meeting. At that meeting, the board had already approved, or had approved at that meeting, a cost proposal which we received from the Desert Research Institute, which would be used to help staff develop the specific information needed to address these recommended actions for incorporation into the update of the 2014 Groundwater Management Plan. So we've already covered these actions to be done with assistance from DRI over the next year. So with that, I'd like to request that the meeting formally open for public comment on whether or not to adopt Resolution 3140-20.
Okay, thank you, Ivo. There is, as you know, there's no public here in the room. Is there anybody out there in Etherland that has a comment on this?
Good afternoon. This is Gary Kavistad.
Gary, how you doing? Long time no see.
Long time no see. Still hanging around in cyberspace, though.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things. We've been working with Evo on this, and in parallel with this, the County Water Agency will be adopting a similar resolution at their June meeting to cover what we called the fringe areas around the district service area that are within the basin, but not within the district service area. So we'll be doing those, everything will be kind of going along parallel. And then we've been working with Evo on preparing an updated MOU with the water agency, and I believe Evo intends to bring that to the board at your first meeting in June. And I think the water agency will be also considering that updated MOU in their June meeting as well. So just so you get a bigger picture of what we're not just doing this just with the district, we're working with Colorado County on this, on the water agency.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have anything on this? If that's the case, why don't we close the public hearing at this time? And I will propose that we adopt resolution number 3140-20, establishing the South Tahoe Public Utility District's intention to draft an update to the 2014 groundwater management plan for the South Tahoe Public Utility District Groundwater Sustainability Agency.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Evo.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, we're going to first talk about a sewer enterprise budget.
Yes, well, sewer and water in two separate agenda items. I feel bad though because you guys didn't get your normal annual budget presentation this year, so we'll make sure we do it at least twice next year.
I missed your pretty graphs.
Okay. So yes, we're here asking you to adopt the proposed fiscal year 21 budgets as presented to the Finance Committee back in March, except with the elimination of rate increases. In the near future, we will be bringing forward an amended budget, which will incorporate whatever rate relief program is ultimately decided upon, as well as departmental budget reductions to help partially offset some of the short-term impacts of the no rate increases next year and the rate relief program. So yeah, the sewer fund first, the fiscal year 2021 sewer fund is in the amount of $34,731,115, and it does not include an increase in service charge rates. The budget includes $11,746,700 for capital projects, $3,516,000 for debt service, $7,586,515 for operations and maintenance, and $11,881,900 for salaries and benefits. So staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 3141-20, adopting the fiscal year 2021 sewer enterprise fund budget, and authorize staff to incorporate any adjustments or changes necessary as a result of board action.
Well, I'll give you a so moved on that. Is there anybody who want to discuss this at all? No, Kelly and I got this most of it. Okay.
I'll second that.
A second then. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
And that passes unanimously.
Okay, we're going to move on to the same thing, but on the water side.
Yes, and so the fiscal year 2021 water fund proposed budget is in the amount of $24,163,510, and also does not include an increase in service charge rates. Budget includes $7,691,000 for capital projects, $1,013,360 for debt service, $4,897,900 for operations and maintenance, and $7,561,250 for salaries and benefits. Staff recommends adopting resolution number 3142-20, adopting the fiscal year 2021 water enterprise fund budget, and authorize staff to incorporate any adjustments or changes necessary as a result of board action.
So moved again.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, next we're going to talk about a temporary engineering internship. I assume Julie's the presenter on that?
That would be me. Good afternoon. I'm here to talk to you today about extending the purchase order for our 2 existing interns through the end of this fiscal year. Johnny and Christine have been with us for a while now, and if we don't extend their purchase order, tomorrow will be their last day. We're just about out of money on the existing purchase order. I'm very sensitive to the impacts that COVID is having on our budgets and our community, and so I'd like to go into a little bit more background about these particular positions and how they're helping the district actually save money, so that you can make a well-informed decision about this. So a little bit of history. I was last before you, I think it was actually Brent brought the last agenda item to you in September of 2019. You approved $50,000 at that time to fund the program through June 30th, and our vision for the program at that time was that we would have one intern at a time. Our current intern at that point was just Christine, and she would continue through December, and then we would re-advertise and bring on a second intern, or replacement intern, for the spring of this year to run through 2020. Well, in January, unexpectedly, our staff engineer resigned, and so we were looking at having no staff level support within the department if we allowed Christine's position to expire at that time, at the end of December. So we asked her to stay on. And then subsequently, we found Johnny, and he started in February with the intention of continuing with us through the end of this year. So let's see, Christine was intended, when we asked her to stay on, to stay until both the junior engineer and the second intern position could be filled, and then she would be done. But then COVID hit, and 10 of the employees from the engineering department were suddenly working from home, and the interns have continued to come to the office every day and really help support those people in the completion of their day-to-day duties. They've really been helping support STAR in getting contracts completed and going to FedEx and all sorts of things that if they weren't there providing that support, things would have been much harder for the engineering department to complete. So that's been really helpful, but the value that they're bringing to the department really goes a lot further than that. A couple of specific things that keeping the intern program going through this time will help us save. Johnny's been working on a design for our wastewater treatment plant control tower. We're going to be installing a new communication tower, and the intention is to do that next summer, so that we can keep reliable communications coming in from Fall and Move Lake. We had received a consultant proposal for that work in the amount of $67,000. Instead of paying a consultant to do that work, he's been doing it for us at a rate of $39 an hour. So there's been a huge savings there. DORADO County Water Agency reimbursements. EVO's developing a plan for doing the well owner survey, which DORADO County has committed $20,000 to us to pay for our outside expenses. So there's both Johnny and Christine, their efforts would be reimbursed by DORADO County for any time they spend working on that project. Outside inspectors, we currently have 2 inspectors, district inspectors, covering 4 projects spanning 8 different sites this summer. And so having interns available to us allows us to have a second set of eyes at some locations when 2 people really can't cover it all, without us having to go out to one of our outside consultants that we've relied on in past years for inspection support. We don't have any plans to hire any outside inspectors this summer. Finally, we don't know in the engineering department how long our COVID response is going to continue. We expect that those people that have been working from home and aren't going out in the field are going to continue working from home for the foreseeable future. So really having that support to offset the additional efforts I would have to be making, that we would have to be calling on our other departments like Melanie and Marla to step in and help support us. I think that there's a lot of value to the district there and having these interns to call on for some of these efforts. What won't get done if tomorrow is our intern's last day? The hay barn design for Diamond Valley Ranch that needs to be hitting the streets in around September to be constructed in November in order to protect this year's crop. We won't have anyone available to complete that design. Backup batteries for the tanks. We received a grant from FEMA. We've been working on developing site plans so that that can be bid with the blower project in February. We won't have anyone available to continue that work. I already mentioned the communications tower. We have a couple of regulatory plans that our interns have been working on, a couple of spill prevention plans and a sanitary sewer master plan that are overdue, and we won't have anyone to complete those and get those off to the regulatory bodies. And then finally, future stimulus projects. We don't know what those might be, but if those opportunities start to roll in, we would need to have interns on staff to be able to go out and start collecting more field information during the summer months while our inspectors and project managers are all concentrating on today's construction so that we can be ready for the next round of construction. With that, if you do approve the $16,000 and change that is on today's agenda, that will get us through the end of June. So I would be returning in 2 meetings' time to ask for the next quarter of funding to continue extending the program at that time.
That would be for one intern.
Yeah, the next request would be to continue just one intern to continue Johnny's into the fall, and that would be about $20,000 for an additional 3 months of justice.
So you're saying none of those things would get done unless you have these interns?
That's correct.
Cannot get done?
They can't get done because everyone is now out in the field for the summer working on inspections. And so the 2 interns are really the only people that we have right now that are doing office-based design work at this time of year.
Yeah, we would have, I mean, if it came to that, we would have to either drop other projects or rely on other staff to fill in some of the gaps.
Overtime is what you're saying?
Overtime, and in the past, we've gone to, like, for example, heavy maintenance and underarm repair to help us do some inspection work, but that capacity is not there now. Both of those departments, between those two departments, they're short 3 full-time people. So that's...
Purposely or not purposely?
Well, they're short due to retirements.
Oh,
that we
okay, so
decided
that's what
after
we're
we
holding
fill
off
it,
on.
we're holding on those. And we've been holding off on those for a few months.
And the term of this really, at this point, is basically a month and a week or so.
This is through June.
It's through June. We'll have a better idea, hopefully. I'm always saying that. At that time to see if we're in really deep trouble or if there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I did send the board some information. A lot of this came in yesterday, so maybe I haven't had a great chance to look at it. But there's a lot of, when we talk about temps, there's a lot was planned in fiscal year 21 budget for temps, upwards of $400,000 between about 17 temporary positions in various capacities throughout the district. This is pretty typical of what we've done in past years. There might be, I think, 1 or 2 additional positions that were initially budgeted for fiscal 21. But we're holding back on all those. We're looking at each one on a case-by-case basis. In this case, we looked at, what would happen. This is really just easily our most cost-effective option. And again, we don't have capacity in other departments, or really in the engineering department itself, to make up the gaps. And, you know, we're really avoiding, if you remember CME, they were our third-party inspectors that we've utilized in the past. When we get an inspector from CME, that's like $120 plus an hour. So we're avoiding CME time by doing this as well. And there's just no way with how many different locations?
There's 8 different locations.
8 different locations this summer. We have 2 full-time inspectors. We just don't have the coverage unless we, you know, find somebody else. And taking a look at all that, I just think this is our best option right now.
So mission critical.
I would
say that?
For sure.
Okay. I think that covers it for me. You okay out there, Nick?
Yeah, I had a chance to talk, or rather email with John about this and had a bunch of questions that many points John reiterated today. So I'm kind of with you, Randy, that, you know, this is another month essentially, and hopefully there's more light at the end of the tunnel and we can revisit further expenditures with temporary positions then.
I would maybe add one more thing as we continue with temps, how we continue with temps, you know, throughout the rest of the year and beyond, is look at sourcing these temps internally, using our own HR department, hiring them directly instead of going through Blue Ribbon with a pretty substantial overhead.
Right.
Yeah, because the markup on that's pretty stiff, isn't it?
Yeah, I think these folks are actually earning about $20 an hour, but we're paying $40.
Oh, so it's double.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Okay.
What stops us from doing that right now?
Well, we're currently in a contract with Blue Ribbon, I think, for these employees.
Oh.
I think it'd be, you know, through June.
Okay. So at some point you could
At some point,
accelerate
I
that?
think, well, as we get to the next item, that's what we've done.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, as those contracts expire, and if we decide to continue with interns or temps in general, we'll look at the best way to source those. In the past, we went to Blue Ribbon just because of, you know, I think we're looking for assistance in the HR department, just in terms of workload. But I believe we'll overcome that.
There's also some considerations with respect to medical insurance that need to be taken into consideration up front. We looked into this actually quite extensively when we were considering extending Christine the first time back in December. As you know, could we just bring her in-house, direct hire, and would that save us money? And because of her particular situation, her having already been here for 9 months, I think it ended up being more cost-effective just to stay with Blue Ribbon. But, you know.
We're getting the Affordable Health Care Act provisions, and there's PERS limitations.
Right.
So
hours per week and stuff.
But if you hire someone specifically for a short duration, they fall under the part-time work, they don't have to.
We have more options available. We keep them under 1,000 hours. And also, I believe the 6 months becomes an issue. But we can bring them on our insurance program in a manner, so we're looking at all those issues.
Then we're back to Dublin.
but it's not close to that.
It's not.
So we'll get there.
All right. I move we approve the extension of 2 existing engineering interns through June 30, 2020, in an amount not to exceed $16,857.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay, next up on the list is another summer intern. This one's for the laboratory.
Yes, good afternoon. I am here because I would like to request from the board the hiring of 1 temporary laboratory intern in an amount not to exceed $8,800. And I know that is different than what is on the agenda. So let me start by saying that I am well aware of the need to cut expenses with recent economic downturns. And after consulting with John, this number of how much I'm requesting has been adjusted downward repeatedly. And as early as yesterday, John and I settled on a smaller number because, as you just heard, we will no longer be using the Blue Ribbon Agency. We'll be hiring this intern directly. So requesting it is no greater than $8,800. It does add a little bit for us to not use Blue Ribbon. You know, I'm sure Liz is the one that gets the most of the burden, but they do a service for us. But I'm very happy not to use them anymore. I also agree that they do charge a pretty penny to do this for us. Now, this request is needed in order to supplement existing staff, particularly our triennial lead and copper sampling on a water distribution system. This is sampling we have to do every 3 years. In the past, in 2017-14, this sampling was the reason why the laboratory requested for additional staffing for a summer intern, and I'm grateful that it was granted in those years. It is quite a bit of extra, driving around, going to people's homes and collecting samples. Our sampling in Alpine County, that in order to meet our discharge requirements, has not been compromised this quarter, but we have been, because of somewhat COVID restrictions, we have been pushing back quite a bit of work, and I expect that it would be a steep hill to climb for the third quarter of 2020 for us to be able to meet all our discharge requirements if we don't have this additional help. Now, if this is not granted, I imagine that the staff at the lab would not allow us to in any way fall behind in our drinking water requirements. I'm sure I could ask them and persuade them to work quite a bit of overtime and come in on Sundays and the days off or to pick up samples, that sort of thing. I imagine that in the future I can ask for the third quarter that the water board on Lahontan give us an allowance on some of our discharge requirements. We've always met them. I don't know how amenable they will be to us closing our eyes to some of the tests that we do for a quarter, expecting that everything will be fine. But I can certainly request it, and they might just grant that. I don't believe it is something that we've done before that has not met our discharge requirement. So for these reasons, I believe that hiring this summer intern is an essential thing for our lab to be able to perform its duties. I respectfully request that you grant us this $8,800 for us to be able to do this.
Okay, John, you had a comment?
Well, I would just, thanks, Dan, and just to build on that a little bit, this item originally started at $18,000. So Dan and I looked at the kind of the workload planning, we reduced hours maybe by about 20%, but the big reduction from $18,000 to $8,800 is because we're sourcing this in-house and avoiding the Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this discussion over the years, actually, about the temporary help and the summer interns, but it's just the nature of the workload for the district in general. In the winter, we just don't do as much work. And to carry on staff, you either staff for one or you staff for the other. And I agree. I appreciate the cost-cutting efforts you've done to pare this number down quite a bit. But I think we're going to have some temporary staff through the summer.
You always have the big summer peak with construction and otherwise.
You got construction. I'm sure your water testing and the lab doesn't do as much in the winter.
Right.
Well, and if you heard Dan say it's because of the zinc and lead testing, it adds an additional burden to them that they don't have the manpower to accomplish without this.
Every 3 years.
And we talked about that, so I mean, I already heard this story a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments? Well, I will move we approve hiring one temporary laboratory intern position in an amount not to exceed $8,800.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Sefler?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, very good. Shelley, I believe I heard you on the line earlier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Environmental policy. Shelley, you still out there?
I am. Good afternoon, board members. This is Shelley Thompson. During our first board meeting in April, I presented to you guys an overview of a district environmental policy. The policy establishes guiding principles to maximize economic performance, reduce environmental and natural resource impacts, ensure compliance with California law, and allow the district to take advantage of grants. I shared with you the draft at that time and didn't receive any additional comments from the board. I did receive some from Gary, that is our lawyer, that is not included in the policy that's in the board packet. The edits coming from Gary don't change content, they just modify wording. So with your approval, what I'm requesting is adopting the district's environmental policy with the opportunity to include minor edits at this time.
Okay, anybody have any discussions on this?
No.
Nick, this is in your wheelhouse.
No, really supportive, obviously, of this effort. But what this got me thinking about in a kind of a larger context was, several months ago, we got into, well, I guess let me step forward. We're going to start to see, obviously reductions that we're going to be talking about here in a minute. So, this kind of element is talking about the environment and preparing, obviously, to get additional grant funding. We were aware of, that climate change plan that was needed for a previous grant earlier in the year. So I was starting to think about, in addition to environment, what other conceivable planning mechanisms could we start looking at to better prepare ourselves for grant funding, especially as money at the district becomes tighter, and conceivably, depending on what happens with the state and their bailout, state money is available. And so really less about this item and more kind of a holistic thought as to, this is great from the environmental end, kind of lining us up for grants, but is there any other opportunities we could start looking at where there's gaps that we could start to fill in now to better prepare ourselves for a grant application?
Want to handle that one, John?
Yeah, this e-policy was kind of developed in tandem with, if you remember, the CIP, Climate Action Plan, and that Climate Action Plan for the CIP became really a critical component to our SRF application. For example, the Tahoe Keys pump station SRF application right now, that CAP, having done that and being able to include that in our application, that moved our score to 13. And that turned out to be essentially the cutoff number for funding. They're currently funding people that scored in the 14s, and right now they're looking at those projects that are in the 13s, and some of those might be pushed off another fiscal year. But we feel like absolutely that this development of this e-policy and the climate action plan as a piece of that really kept us in that SRF funding for those huge projects. What is the total amount of that application? Do you recall, Paul?
About $6.5 million.
Yeah, that's just for Tahoe Keys. We're going to be using that for the other pump station and other projects coming up. So, Nick, that's a good point, and we're definitely working with Lynn. She's keeping an eye out for these stimulus and climate action, climate change funding coming up through the state of California. That looks like that's still going to happen even with this COVID. And we're keeping an eye on that and making sure we're putting ourselves in the best situation to be able to apply for those funds when they come forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Point taken there.
And
Shelley, yes.
Yeah, moving forward, Gary, do you have any proposed language on the board action to ensure that we're able to incorporate those edits?
I think the way that you described it to the board is fine. Is, if you want, is to, we can just say to, let me get your, to adopt the the environmental policy with the minor additional non-substantive changes.
So moved.
There you go.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Cepalo,
Yes.
President Vogelsang,
Yes.
Director Sheehan,
Yes.
Director Exline.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And just for a point of clarification here, because I'm typing and doing several things, we had, that motion was Vogelsang and Sheehan.
Yes. And Shelley, I want to thank you on that, because that's the first time I think we've ever tricked Gary into making a motion.
Actually, I think you're right, Randy.
But now it's going to be a very extensive motion.
Yeah. Okay, payment of claims.
I move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $892,958.38.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Director Cepalo,
Yes.
President Vogelsang,
Yes.
Director Sheehan,
Yes.
Director Exline.
Yes.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Okay, which brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is standing and ad hoc committee reports. The first item under that list is board member appointment for the operations committee. I was just thought I'd throw this out to you. Right now, it's if we appoint it now, it's either Chris, myself, or Kelly. If we want to wait a little bit, we can see if the newly appointed board member wants that spot or not. I just throw that out there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think.
Nick, are you lonely until that happens, or do you want a temporary thing?
No, I would be happy if any of you join me. That being said, I know everyone's commitments, and so I'm kind of with you, Randy. See who comes on the board. Pretty quickly. Gonna have a new board member, and see if they, get them into the ops meeting, so that way we can kind of spread out the workload between all the board members.
Because we probably want to revisit all the committee appointments, and we need to discuss participation with things like Aqua that Jim was really involved in, and so that's what I would prefer. And that's a good point, Nick. At any time, any one of the three of us could attend the operations committee.
The next ops committee meeting is on the 15th.
Okay.
So you'll have your selection before that time.
Okay, so there you go. All right. Which brings us to the rest of this topic. We did have a meeting just today. Chris and I and John met with Tamara Wallace and Joe Irvin, you're right. The brand new city manager. It was a good meeting. The bulk of the meeting was talking about how we were handling the COVID situation, and how they were handling the COVID situation, and what their plans were moving forward. They're looking at June 1st opening their customer service offices. They're looking at putting, not extensive, but the plexiglass screens that we see at a lot of places like banks and some retail places. I kind of suggested, Tim, you might want to look at maybe opening our offices around that time. After you discuss it, of course, with John and the rest of the COVID team. But it might be kind of good to get a little coordination in the city's opening up, the SPD's opening up. I know that John had talked about doing a little bit of remodel work in the office with some kind of screening to the public, so we'll look into that too. Other than that, we just, kind of was an introductory meeting. And we told him what we told his predecessor and what we told his predecessor's predecessor, and on, because that's unfortunately the way the city's been with their high turnover. But hey, I was impressed. I thought he seemed like a good guy. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think he's a great guy. I mean, somebody we're really going to be able to work with. We'll miss Frank, but he was really strong today.
Yeah. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or John?
Well, I think that the spirit of cooperation with Joe will continue as it did with Frank. He seemed really motivated to try and work together in any capacity to save money on either end. So if you guys have ideas and you think out of the box, because this is a good time.
Yeah, in fact, he initiated that in terms of, meeting with John separately and kind of talking about areas there might be overlap.
Anything you come up with that could save us money, might save them some money on the other side. So whatever it is. I mean, no idea is bad right now.
Right.
I think Tammy and Joe both vocalized their worry about the community because they've been getting a lot of feedback from business people in the town that are worried. I think that right now we're in this lull and no one really knows how this is going to play out. So, I mean, Tammy made the comment that 400 businesses could end up disappearing.
Yeah, I thought what struck me is because city council, we don't get those kind of calls. She gets calls of people crying, saying that they don't know what they're going to do. They're going to lose everything. Yeah, and she gets those all the time. So I guess we're fortunate we don't get those kind of calls beside them.
Yes. So we don't know. I mean, honestly, we don't know. I think things will bounce back a little quicker than we're anticipating, but we'll wait and see. Let's see what else they talked about. That was basically the substance of our conversation.
Hey, guess what's back? Streetlights.
Well, streetlights on someone else's plate.
Joe's been on the job for less than 3 weeks. He gets a call from Liberty going. He gets a letter. Hey, when are you going to start paying us for those streetlights? So he was brought up to speed on that.
Hey, Randy and Chris.
Yeah.
Did you get into any conversation with Tammy and the new city manager regarding kind of the sums of money they were putting together for the city's relief package?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Actually, they've committed several $100,000 to various nonprofits or groups in the community to help put us back on our feet as a town.
And they had some kind of a restaurant voucher thing. And John, you made a list, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got some of those numbers. They just passed that short-term, I think it's called Economic Recovery Item Task Force. 50,000 went to 5 local food banks. 50,000 went to the DORADO Community Foundation. 100,000 went to towards COVID compliance at local businesses. They would match the businesses with city funds up to $2,500. And then they're providing $50,000 in restaurant vouchers. And we're also looking to match a $100,000 grant from the Services Council. So I also mentioned that they did a 60-day business license referral. And
they talked about reducing regulations to help get the businesses going, loosening their sign ordinances for sidewalk placard, making it so that restaurants can expand to their outdoor areas to reduce the density. And I'm the whole time thinking to myself, well, if these things are all good for businesses, why are they there? Why do they need? So maybe it's one of the things. We'll get all these temporary relaxations, and then we'll plant the seed that maybe they shouldn't be temporary. So anyway.
So John, just real quick, it sounded like of all those numbers you tallied up or read off, it came up to 350,000.
That sounds about right.
yeah, I think that's why
And that's what I was.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was going to say that's what I was curious about. So that's what I was curious about to see, what sum the city was putting forward for various different relief packages, to see where our numbers line up, and ideally get some level of some consistency between those two numbers.
Well, we talked, Brooke was called in, and so she was online, and then Tammy was here in person with Joe. And Brooke brought up, and actually she kind of put Joe on the spot a little bit about what he was going to do about reducing salaries and benefits. And it's interesting because it was very clear that our revenue sources are different, our mission is different, but she hinted toward that for the city, and mainly because their lion's share of their revenue comes in from places that might be severely limited, like DOT, for instance. And so we reiterated to Brooke that, first of all, it's two different, it's apples and oranges. Secondly, we're already taking proactive steps to try and limit costs, and that, no, we're not planning salary and benefit reductions at this point because we don't have to. And it would be irresponsible or actually even damaging to the district to limit our ability to fix and monitor and build things that have to get done. So with that said, that was kind of the one point in the whole conversation that was kind of odd to me because she wanted John to kind of side with her on that. And I don't think that the city knows exactly how this is going to play out for them. And I'm not saying they're going to do that. Joe said straight up, that's the last thing on the list. But they also face uncertainty with the financial influx of money.
Yeah, right now their TOT is at 0 and their sales tax is really low. So
Like close to 0.
Close to 0. So they've got issues.
Yeah.
So anyway, them putting $350,000 is a pretty big step for them at this point, not knowing where their revenue is going to be coming from in 6 months.
True. Just to throw this out there, the draft of stimulus funding package number 4, which from what I understand may not actually pass.
That's DOA.
But it has a fairly large pot of money for state and local government, meaning city, county, reimbursement for those lost revenues. It didn't have anything for special districts at that time.
Of course.
But so, yeah, it is possible that they may be made whole at some point in the future.
There's a lot of hands in that pot.
Yeah.
I don't see that one going through.
But anyway, the point of the matter is we're really working together to try and save money wherever we can because I think they'll need it as much as we do.
We talked a little bit about, they're hearing a lot from the community. It sounds like mostly they're feeling like the business community was really the one suffering out there. And we talk about the assistance being provided to residential customers, and I felt we're sort of in agreement that it seems like most of the residential customers were being taken care of with a stimulus and expanded unemployment.
Yeah,
that sort of.
Nick, for your benefit, they were asking us, we kind of told them that it was floated out there, an idea of forgiving rates for 1 quarter, reducing rates by 25%. And we told them that we were really looking for something more targeted than that, targeted the businesses. And they were kind of online with that too, which is why they targeted the restaurants and what they did with things. Because, we've talked before about throwing those ideas out, but the more we, at least from my point of view, the more we kick it around, the more we think about it, across the board doesn't really make as much sense. We need to figure out a way to target where that money goes, whatever amount of that money it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of what where I was going with, and kind of in agreement with that line of thinking is target it, make sure it goes to the people that need it, and not taken advantage of by the people that don't.
Yeah, we got to put our heads together and figure out a way to do that.
Okay, is there any other, anything under this category, standing there, hot things? I don't think so. Anybody personally have a board report you want to give? I'm good. Good. Nick, you got anything?
I just want to say big congratulations to Shelly and Brent for getting the 40-40 under 40 for the chamber. Really good, really positive for the district, really positive, kind of showing, our staff and all the rest. So I just wanted to, congratulate both of them in what they're doing and the positive image they're putting forward to the community for the district.
Agree with that.
Very good. Thank you.
The fabulous board.
I don't even remember what.
I didn't say 40. Wow.
You gotta be under 40.
I remember that. Okay, is anything going on with the DORADO County Water Agency?
So John and I, they did have a meeting last week, and John and I participated by phone. They approved their budget, and we were happy that we received $360,000, which was basically what we asked for. Yeah. And so that was really positive because the past few years have been that's not been the case. And they also, I'd like to note that their meeting, the adjournment was, I believe the way they said it, was in memory of Jim Jones.
And both Ken Payne and Brian Beerkamp, said some really nice things about you. And so that was very thoughtful of them. And that's it.
Okay, good. I guess that brings us to you, John, to your report.
Okay, yeah, I've got a couple items, starting with staffing. As I mentioned a little earlier, we remain on hold for 3 full-time recruitments, underground repair water and 2 heavy maintenance positions. Of course, now is not the time to recruit and onboard new employees, and we also need to consider delaying some of these for some period of time for cost-saving measures due to COVID-19. Again, not sure for how long. It's painful to go without these full-time positions. They are falling behind on some projects in some areas, and other departments are pitching in, but of course that has some cascading effects on their departments as well. So we're adjusting and we're looking for ways to make it through this period. We also, I think, need to look at refilling these permanent positions along with the request for temporary employees. I can really see a more cost-effective solution out there, maybe by doing some kind of combination of one full-time position and maybe some part-times. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to start talking about that in detail next week with those crews. Again, just looking for ways to reduce spending and really lean out as much as possible, as much, what makes sense for the next 6 to 12 months at least. And then, we've talked about temporary employees. I sent the board some details by email. We're looking at every request on a case-by-case basis. Again, we had, about 17 temps in the mix coming up this budget year, about in excess of $400,000. That included an additional IT temp and 2 new temps in underground repair water. And these were kind of slated, planning to test valves and hydrants all throughout our system. This work has never been done, needs to be done. So we will continue to look at ways to adjust work and reduce costs in these areas before we bring temp requests back to the board. And again, I'm still planning to run these by ops and finance committees when feasible. So next I want to talk about our favorite subject, COVID-19. I did send out an email yesterday that included a Barton update. We have a weekly call-in with them on Tuesdays. Barton is seeing very few positive cases, and they're supporting the careful reopening of town. We're now in phase 2. Barton has ample capacity at the hospital, and in fact, they're in their 3rd week of doing some non-COVID care, including surgeries. So that's a great sign. Of course, we are all stressing the need for mitigation measures as we open up, social distance, cleaning, etc., and we're taking those precautions at the district as well. Barton is still recommending that really everyone in the community get tested for COVID, and they're doing free asymptomatic tests right over here at the community college. And I'm encouraging our own staff to go get tested. Anyone can get tested, and there are always a lot of times available every day that I check. I actually got tested late last Wednesday. I got my results on Sunday, negative. So, and you can go get retested every 2 weeks. So just recommending that for everyone out there. Now at the district, we remain healthy with no COVID-19 cases. And we do continue to operate at our own risk level 3. This has extensive telework and efforts to keep the crews separated. Some of them by working separate days of the week with that Team A, Team B concept. And we are now working, again, to modify these schedules for the field crews, looking for some increased productivity as we enter the grading season and start to look at de-escalating. These transitional field schedules are expected to begin June 11th, and at this point, we think likely extending in August. We'll see how it goes. We talked a little bit about customer service and opening the customer service office. I think actually they're totally fully operational and functional with mostly a virtual staff in the front office. So Tim, great job on that, and IT for setting everybody up. Our field inspectors continue to complete all the field work with COVID safety precautions, doing the finals, etc. we're working on ways to improve the front office safety for when we do reopen, mostly by adding plexiglass partitions between our staff and the public. I don't really see a need to rush this, dealing with the success that customer service is having. We'll see how the city does for their reopening.
I just threw that out.
Yeah.
You guys do what's best for us.
I think at this point we're thinking maybe 2 months out, we're going to get some bids to get this plexiglass and frames put in the front, and we'll see what that schedule is, and then I think we can seriously talk about when it makes sense to reopen. Our COVID planning team, we continue to meet just about every day, maybe 3 or 4 days a week. We have had larger call-ins with all managers and supervisors on the call about every 2 weeks. And then about every 3 weeks, we've had a complete call-in. Everybody at the district can call in district-wide, kind of like a virtual town hall, if you will. Just seeing that communication and collaboration are critical elements of our response and recovery efforts. We have also implemented a new email system for me where anyone can send me a question or comment and remain anonymous. So this has been a little interesting.
You set that up, Brian. You can sneak in.
It takes the details of the submitter off the back end. IT can't even dig into who said that.
Kind of like a more current technology suggestion box, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, we can type those. But I think this has been a good addition as well, really. I've received some very interesting emails, it turns out. And of course, there's such a wide range of perspectives on this pandemic and what we should be doing or not doing and when. So that's actually been a very challenging aspect of all of this response effort. But I think we've done a good job in keeping the channels open, considering all concerns and ideas, and explaining our decisions and directives with the staff as we move forward. So that's been good. And kind of last on this item, I just wanted to talk about our COVID-19 response on the financial side, and then open it up to any board comments on the issue. But kind of looking back 2 weeks ago, we had a finance committee meeting and then a regular board meeting. The board expressed major concerns about community economic health, the need for an assistance program for our customers. We heard that. Also heard concerns about the cost of some of the programs relative to the value of the benefit that would be seen by the customers. We've already talked about that today. A 25% decrease in the bill. What does that really mean from the customer side? And actually, since I mentioned that, I guess to that example, if we gave everybody a 25% bill reduction, it would cost the district about $1.8 million. But if I'm an average residential customer, it means I got $78 off my quarterly bill. So $28 a month is what the impact would be to an average residential customer.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to sound callous at all, but if you can't make the full payment, chances are you can't make 3/4 of the payment.
Right.
So I would rather, like we mentioned earlier, try to really get creative and think about how we can target where it needs to be targeted within the community.
So we've been, since the board meeting, we keep looking at some numbers and how we might do a more targeted approach. And since I have the spreadsheet out, I'll just throw out some numbers just so we kind of know what scale we're talking about. If we looked at all local commercial customers, I looked at their sewer bill, and if we gave them 100% reduction on a quarter of their sewer bill, just throwing out numbers, that would be like $472,000. And then if you look at the customer side, what would some customers see if we did that? A restaurant, for example, a brewery restaurant would see a reduction of about $1,000. So I mean that's pretty significant.
That's significant. Yeah.
A hotel, a local motel, $1,600. So I think that's significant.
These are quarterly numbers.
This is for a quarter if you if they had a quarter off their bill. Right. And for a hair salon, $360. So, you do a focus program, less impact on the district, more impact, I think, on the people and the businesses
That's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. One's kind of aimed at Julie, and then one's aimed at Tim. So I'll start with Julie. Have you seen any, like, thing change in the atmosphere towards getting your projects going for this summer? Like the last phase of the water meters, or you said you had 8 sites going this summer. As far as contractors not mobilizing to start getting their stuff done.
You know, it's interesting you ask that because back in February, he really wanted to like get rolling on the large meter installations that we had happen on. We got 3 of them out at some of the resorts. At first we were reluctant, and then COVID-19 hit, and it was like, well, let's go ask because they're closed right now. Right, and so we went to like the village and Tahoe Beach and Ski, and they said, yeah, absolutely. If you have work to do here, don't wait until people are coming back. Do it now. And here we are, it's the last week of May, and they haven't really mobilized yet. And
so they wanted to, they just didn't.
Yeah, and so what we heard today was like, I gotta get the okay from the operations side, because we're talking to the office side with, you know, the person who's ordering the parts, and he said, you know, the parts are coming through more slowly. And that kind of stuff. And he's like, and now we've got to do all the parts, I gotta go talk to operations and make sure we got the people. And so, yeah, so I think the desire was there, but maybe, you know, not the ability to pull it all together in the time frame that they're used to.
That makes sense. So everything's a little more complex.
Yeah.
So it's possible of those 8 projects we got going on, it's possible some of the contractors might have trouble pulling them off.
I think that, well, so the New Zealand inspector, which is Burdick, who we awarded them the project within 2 weeks. They wanted us to issue them the notice to proceed. They hit the ground running. They were not supposed to start the sewer line until after the end of school, which was like the 3rd week of June. They're going to start on Tuesday.
Oh, good.
So it's hitting everybody a little bit differently, but they're all being affected in one way or another. It's obvious.
There's also verdict on the Killer Heavenly project, right? And it looks like that's going to be pushed out to next year, but that's because of the SRF delays.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't count that in.
That was one of the dates.
Yeah.
But that's really good to know because it gives us a picture of the landscape, and
Yeah.
you see it better than we do.
So I was talking to Sarah, an engineer at the Tahoe City this afternoon, and she said that they're beginning to see the impacts of potential economic downturn on the construction side. That she's got contacts down in Sacramento, and that the landscape does look like it's changing. But the contractors are looking hungrier. And so, you know, we've got that.
So there could be upside waiting for a year.
Yeah, we've got a bid, it's on the street right now, so we'll know in about 3 weeks, if that's starting to, manifest itself. It's the, Clarify project, bids at the end of June, and, that, you know, that's it's a little bit larger project than our local contractors generally go after, and so it'll be interesting to see if we get more interest.
So the correlation I'm trying to make is between no rate increase this year versus more favorable bidding climate if we wait till next year on some of these things. Obviously, some aren't going to wait. Some are too far down the pipe to go till next year, but that's kind of where I'm going with that whole big picture thinking.
Yeah, we're almost done with our bidding for this season, and you know, so this Clarify project is the last one that we're going to do this year. We're supposed to bid Tahoe Keys. We were supposed to advertise it for June, and now with the funding hold up from SRF, we're not going to. So. Maybe that'll end up serving us well in a pricing standpoint.
Or it doesn't, because the SRF dries up and there isn't any. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good, though. That gives me a little better picture than what I had a minute ago. And then my next question for Kim would be, have you seen any change in the way revenue's coming in for the quarterly billings to this point? Or does it just seem normal? And if so, I mean, what's it looking like for you?
When we look at the PCP, I'm looking every day, it is below normal right now. I do believe, as far as collections, it has come down some. We're still waiting on those links and numbers and what they are. But from what I've seen, I'd say we're below average on the money coming in.
But not in a drastic way, just below average.
Just below, not drastic.
And you won't know what that delinquency number is until June 30th.
Yeah, we won't know
People
until
have it.
June 30th.
Right. I know we can't really get the whole picture of that for
Yeah,
another.
Because the last quarter was kind of right at the start of this,
Yeah.
so
A lot of people do wait till the very end of the quarter to make their payment.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what we really need to see what we could do going forward.
and we're just gonna have to into June, right?
And then lastly, for Tim, have you made any headway on the monthly billing, trying to find a way to maybe cut that cost back a little bit?
We have a few things to try to get messages out to customers for Christmas money.
Okay.
That would help cut the cost, but, some people just like that piece of paper, they say, okay, just depending on what generation you have kids. But, we are making a little bit of headway on that, and, hopefully we'll come back next month, let you know where we're at. Maybe we want to go forward.
Yeah, and those things are kind of tied together because in June 30th, we'll see who's not paying or if that's even a problem. And then if that's the case, then we can figure out how to move forward with different billings types that we want to try and point toward people now that maybe aren't monthly billing statements, like other ways to reduce that cost when we finally get to that point where we would want to do that. Because I think we do, if we can find a way to do it so that it doesn't break the piggy bank while we're looking at $16,000 and trying to figure out a way to axe it.
Right. Yeah, we'll continue to push that message on our bills in print, on the radio when we're there, that people, get people to paperless billing, to automatic payments, that they can do their payments on a monthly basis, and just continue to reinforce that and work with folks when they call us to try to get them paperless, to try to get them on monthly billing. That'll work better for them.
Yeah. One of the things I was doing, I told Joe this morning, and it's kind of it's not really on the subject, but in the airline business, they anticipated, they've cut the capacity by 90%, right? So now out of 10 planes, 1 is flying. And they anticipated that to follow through till next year, like 2021. But what they've actually seen is an uptick in the passenger counts that they didn't anticipate. So a ray of sunshine in this whole thing is that, they're calling back planes that they've been parking and increasing. It's a good time. Passenger counts. And so that could be just a small indicator of the economic desire to go back to normal. So that's kind of why I think we should wait and figure out what program we want to ask for or devise for our customer until we know more.
And until then, we can waive late fees and allow people to defer their bills so we're not creating a crack.
It was just kind of an aside.
Sure. That's good.
Anyway,
That's good news.
not making it take longer for any reason.
Okay, looks like we're at the end of our list here, except are there any other staff and/or attorney reports?
I just need to announce one quick thing. The closed session call-in number that was previously sent out to Gary, Nick, and Shannon is no longer working. So Marla emailed you a new number. Use that one to call in for closed session if you would.
Oh, darn, that's
Okay.
my next question. Is that closed session item still happening? It sounds like it is. So at this point, let's move out of open session into closed session. Tim, did you have a lot of closed session and open session? Nothing to report, meeting adjourned.